Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. I'm Bralynn, your host. This is episode 99, and I'm excited to have Pat Wanas, a rock star, amazing client that I'm going to introduce you to her. And Pat, you've just been so on my heart to be on the show, but I'm glad you're here now. I just have one announcement, though, and you know this. Quantum Capacity is coming up. When this airs, it was actually the free kickoff event will be tomorrow, the 18th, because we're airing on the 17th. So the free kickoff event, if you haven't registered already, go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com/Zoom. Super, super simple. You don't have to remember any of the name or anything, just Zoom. And click on that and register. And even if you can't make it live, you can get the replay if you register. So spiritcenteredbusiness.com/Zoom is how to join us on Quantum Capacity. But right now, Pat, you're going to talk about the inner world and your inner workings, all of that quantum stuff that we're going to be working on after we hear more about who you are, what's your story, how did you start blending the spiritual into your business and all of that. So I'm going to give you the floor. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. And I just loved working with you. I knew that when it's funny because I found you when I had COVID back in November, December of 2020. And that's when I discovered you. And I was looking and praying for a business coach that I had wanted to work with and somebody that was more centered on bringing heaven down. And there you were, so I'm, and it has been quite a journey and it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm awesome. I know I put you through some struggles. I remember one time when you were like in module 2 and you're like, I was about to stop. I was so done because module 2 is all about your story and the lessons and the lies and the stuff that you built that your inner world on. So that was a tough one for you.
Yes, it was. It was a lot of stuff I thought I had dealt with that I had buried and the Lord had brought it up, but it was so good because it really made me see who I am and especially on what my business is all about, which I have a lot of incredible testimonies that I could say about how my business has grown spiritually, the spiritual aspect of business that has grown since we have connected.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you tell the folks about your journey? Like, how did you step out of just regular churchianity and into the deeper things of God? Let's go there first before we get into the really deep mysteries that you're into now.
Well, I became born from above when I was 16 years old. So it's always been a journey, but me and my husband had spent 7 years I call it the backside of the wilderness. We had lived for a season. We were living in North Carolina and it was so dry. It was so parched. I mean, they're just, every so often you'd find a pocket of water, but it was during that time that I really feel that the Lord had, brought us to, because that was when he really showed me who he was. He calls you into the wilderness to speak tenderly to you, and that's exactly what he did to me. So when I was coming on my way out of the wilderness, you come out of the wilderness, but it doesn't mean that you're coming out all the way completely. I remember we were moving to Florida and I had a dream, and it was actually on my 50th birthday where the Lord came to me in a dream, and we were standing in the middle of Times Square, and he said to me, it's a place of choice. I mean, it's a crossworld. And he said to me, he took his finger and he pointed at me and he said, Satan has asked to sift you as wheat, but I have prayed that right out of Luke, that I have prayed and that you will overcome. And I knew this was not going to be an easy journey moving to Florida. And in a sense, it was because I was able to connect and find a pocket of just very different people. We have formed an ecclesia called All Things Restored. And it has been such a journey, even with them, but they have been a foundation for me going into this next level. So we have really traveled and learned and gone into the heavenly realms, more so as a part of a group, but you always have to do your homework. So that's, that has been a huge part of it, where doors have opened and realizing that we're nothing but a gate, and that in my life verse has always been seeking first the kingdom. And I've always loved, and it is a part of my scroll of what Jesus said, let it be on earth as it is in heaven. And that is part of my mandate, is bringing from heaven to earth. So that, so for the 10 years now it's going to be that I'm here in Florida. It has been a wild journey, but it's been an incredible experience.
Even before you moved to North Carolina, you were in New Jersey and connected to a very active church over there. So even in your church days, you were not operating as typical church, right?
No, we weren't. And we're going back into the days of the whole prophetic movement, the outpouring up at Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship. So the church that I had belonged to was very, very involved with that. And we were a church, we lived in the mountains, and we were a church in the hills, kind of hidden. And it was amazing, the speakers who would come on a monthly basis, that we were constantly having these renewals. And that, and again, whatever background that you're from, you're going to sit there and you're going to listen to Graham Cook do a teaching, or John Paul Jackson. And it's like, you're going to sit there and scratch your head. And it's like, wow, like this stuff, it really resonates. So yes, that was my church foundation, was being so out of the box. And
that's so good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, very good. Okay, so let's get into a little bit about what you're studying now. And we're like the things that we're talking about in quantum capacity, about that inner world and those inner structures, and some of the brilliance that you've learned and that you've implemented in your life.
Oh my goodness. It's like, how much time do we have?
I know, right? Well, we have two segments. So for part one, which is episode 99. So you can talk about 99 too, because that meant something to you when I said, hey, did you know? Well, it's just something that I recently learned, that 9 is one of those numbers, that it really stands for reproducing, because 9 will always reproduce itself and it will replicate itself. And it is it is a divine number. It is a number of beauty, and it is also the number of perfection. And like, if you take any multiple of 9, times it, add it together, you will always come back to 9. So to have 99, that's a double, that's a double portion. Awesome.
Yeah. And just,
well, I'm so, God just worked it out so that you were my 99 and 100th episode, because I wanted it to be special. I'm like, oh, well, it's my dear friend. We just got to spend some time together. I was at your beautiful house in Florida there. And so it means a lot to me that it could be you that was on these two episodes. It's perfect. God's timing. I thought it was going to be someone else, but it's you. And now just share some of the stuff that we had long chats about, all of that stuff that you've been working on.
Okay. Well, let's see, where can I start? I would really start, foundational about the gates, what it is that we have on the inside of us, the gates of our spirit, the gates of our soul, and the gates of our body. And, we have all those beautiful teachings, coming forth about, calling forth your spirit and having your soul to rest. But one of the things that the Lord started showing me a few years ago when I started to study nutritional health coaching is that I want to say it's like 90% of your serotonin is made and stored in your gut. So people who have a lot of depression issues, it really is more of a gut issue, and when you're dealing with somebody that may have, just any type of depression going on, or you're just wanting to help them and get through, we think that it's about the spirit, but the Lord started showing me it really is about the body, because sometimes we have to go in through the body to affect the soul, to bring forth the spirit, because you got to remember, on one side of the body, you have the spirit. On one side of the soul, you have the spirit. And on the other side of the soul, you have the body. So the body is really important to the Lord. And, our bodies are a temple. So that's where he began showing me, more about nurturing your body will really help tune your soul to allow your spirit to flow through.
So good. Yeah, definitely. And we definitely add body stuff in quantum capacity,
Yes.
For instance, drinking your water, getting your sleep, those kinds of things, and whatever God calls. And most of us are, called to do absolutely zero sugar, no, and some, maybe it'll be deeper, no toxins at all, no processed food, no junk food, no nothing. So who knows,
And one of the reasons for that is because of the frequency of how it affects our body. Our bodies are frequency. We are energy. We are energy beings.
Mm-hmm.
And so that energy, we're energized in our spirit, and we have to flow through bringing heaven's energy from our spirit, through our soul into our body. But then when we get to our body, there's a lot of influences that here in the earth that will affect our body. Some things will bring down your frequency, and some things will, make your frequency go a little higher. And one of the things that the Lord had showed me, again, back in the earlier times, of going back and looking into, into Leviticus and all the rules that God had put into place for the priesthood. And one of the reasons why that they had to wear linen very close to their bodies, right next to their bodies, is because out of all the fabrics, linen is the highest conductor of frequency.
Wow.
So
cool.
So when the priests have that on, yeah. So, it was just all about that. And they understood that, and, it's the same thing like with the stones that they used to wear. Each one of those stones have an energy. A lot of them were quartz, and you take a look, you take a piece of quartz, you put it into your watch, and it energizes your watch. It's a battery. So that's the way that the Lord started to show me how to operate in the body. And again, with using foods and just taking a look of our structures, of just what we are truly made of and how we can help support it.
So good. So good. So I know you have some practices that you do, and you're able to get into your, into the spirit realm, and you're quite a seer, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So share some of the things that the Lord has shown you in your time when you're pressing in with him about your inner world and the growth that he's calling you into.
Well, one of the things that I have learned from one of my favorite mentors, was about building the heavenly structure around you. And so every morning when I get up, I will lay there, and you're supposed to stand up and do it, but I just lay there. God is big enough. But I start to release the Hebrew letters around me, the Yod He Vav He, and just taking in the deep breaths, because, we're actually breathing him in and then breathing him out. And so I love to start my day doing that. And that, just opens wide up, because at that point, and I'll do that a couple of times. And at that point, it's wide open, so that's where, it just all depends. I love to spend time with the Lord, that I'll meet him there. And, sometimes it's different every day. Sometimes we'll have communion. Sometimes we'll go into my business center and we'll sit down because my office chair in there is a cloud. And so
that's right. I forgot that we found that out. Yep.
so I'll sit in the cloud with him, and sometimes he'll stroke my hair, and we'll have little discussions about things, and or sometimes he'll just show me things, or sometimes it's working with my angels, which learning from Dr. Horner, and that was so insightful, of just learning on how to welcome in your angels every day, and then to commission them to go and to read your scroll, and that your steps will be ordered, that you won't miss anything out on that day, because it's so hard for us to accomplish everything. We have so much coming around us, including the frequencies, there's a lot of stuff that is being thrown out there. And so, we may try to tune ourselves as much as possible, but we can, get out of tune. And that's where the angels will help bring us back into place and just keep things going for us, so this way, we can accomplish what's on our scroll for the day.
Oh, that's so good. So I think you're referring to the Spirit Centered Business Show we did with Dr. Ron Horner and Donna Nieper.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That was a really good show to engage your angels. And, Donna is just amazing at all of that as well. So that's good that, it's so funny. You have been one of these people who have always come back to me and said, you learned something from this show and you learned something from this guest and you implemented it. So I love that you have implemented so much all along the way. I can't even remember all of the shows that you mentioned. Oh, Lemuel Adebambo.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was another one that was so good. And even a show from a few years back with Dan Duval, and it's just like, wow. And it's very, very timely. And this is something that I haven't shared with you yet. And I really forgot to tell you this. So, because being holistic is the sum part making the whole. So it's not just me and my business. It's not just me and my family, but it's also me in the ecclesia that I am a part of. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the bench of 7. I am in the leadership group. And when I listened to the show with Dr. Horner and ordered the book and started going through it, I was just so blown away, all about the bonds. And we had a leadership meeting, and I had gone to my ecclesia and I was telling them about the bonds. And so it's like, okay, like 2 weeks later, they said, okay, Pat, we want you to teach on this, this has to go to the body. And it's like, okay, so I did. And that's when you were on
Well, you did a great job. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun because, these things of the kingdom, they should be fun. Like, they really shouldn't be burdensome. If they're burdensome, we're carrying the burden. We're just supposed to be the outworkers of already the blueprint that we have received. And I know for my life, it just seems to, I have my basic structure, but it seems to change every day. And especially during these times right now, there's a lot of shifting, there's a lot of changing that's happening. But in my ecclesia, in our leadership group, this was a while ago. I want to say this was back in December. And, we've really been pressing into these bonds. And so one of the members in the bench, he had mentioned about the bond of the Berit Hashin, in the beginning. And so anyway, that we weren't to toil or strife, as it is in Genesis, with going back to the way how we were originally created. And we actually created a bond based on Genesis, on the original.
Oh, wow.
On the original creation. And so what we did in our meeting is that we had called out, and we're a small group, maybe there's 30 of us. And what we did in that meeting is that we had gone and we had petitioned for the bond, and we had gotten it on behalf of the body. And we called out everybody's name. We called them all out. And it's like, okay, Lord, and we always ask the Lord to confirm what it is that we did, because it's nice to know that something is happening.
Right.
So,
Right.
so at the following week, we have a bench of 12 meeting, and this is where we get together and we pray, for whatever it is that the Lord has on our heart. And in the beginning, that we'll sit around, and there's usually about 12 of us, and we'll sit around and share. And one of the members had said that, that the day after that we did this bond, he had worked for one of the major financial companies, and he was under so much stress. And the Lord had told him, tomorrow, it's okay to put in your notice that you're going to be leaving, because he's been praying about it. And it happened the day after that we had issued that bond and called out his name. And so what he did is he gave 4 weeks leave of absence, and he said he had so much peace about it. And now he came back and he shared this with us. So that's the power of the bonds. Like when you take this and you put it into action, because how else are you going to learn or see? To do it. Yeah. So
yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Another thing that has been helping, and we've had a lot of conversation, is the lie busting, to get rid of the structures inside of us that were based on lies. So, we've done you personal lie bust, we've done your business, we've done the building that you're selling in North Carolina, and that has just been eye-opening and revealing. All of that kind of stuff as well.
So here's another one. Okay. So the lie busting of what we did. And again, working with Bralynn, she's going to take it, from every aspect, spirit, soul, and body, which is so necessary. It was so necessary. But I remember in one of our sessions that we had gone back and we were looking for the curses. And there was something about that my heritage that actually came from Russia. And my grandfather came from Russia, and we had gone back because there was something that I was carrying in my bloodline that had gone back a couple hundred years, and it was all based in Russia. So that was a bloodline that we had cleansed, and we had shut down any of those curses. Well, just this past Saturday night at our ecclesia, it was a very, very powerful time, of just, what is going on there. But we ended up engaging with the Lord in the Council of Nations, and we were all given a flag. And we literally all had a flag. And so I was given a flag. And as soon as I was handed the flag, the Lord told me that I'm to represent Russia. And so what I did is I actually stepped back into the cleansed generational bloodline. And I had repented, on behalf of the acts of what are going on. And, not to get into too much detail, but we all know what's happening in the world right now. But I had actually stood in that place, as an intercessor and repenting. And then what I did is I actually took my flag and I surrendered it before the King of Kings in the Council of Nations. So,
wow.
And that I didn't even put, everything together until just today. It's like, we did that, we did that. So that is all a part of it. It's just these pieces that are coming together that just flow, and you don't know when it's for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. And we never know where God's going to take us when we're working in heaven, either in the business complex and working for our business or working personally. I remember one time we were asking about if there's any parts of you that need a little loving. And it was the screws in your elbow after surgery. Remember that?
Oh, that is such a great story. Yes, I do. Yes.
So go ahead. You tell it.
So I had an accident back in 2019, the end of 2019, and I had surgery, and I broke my humerus. I broke it in two. And so I have a plate and 14 screws that, were put in to hold back together so I can heal. And I just don't like this metal in my body. And again, as the Lord was showing me things about my body, he told me that I needed to, bring it and bless it and bring it into the beloved of who my body is. And so the vision that he gave me is the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, where the boy loved the rabbit so much that he rubbed it, and the rabbit started to wear away. But in the end, the rabbit became real. So here was a stuffed animal that became real. And the Lord had showed me that if I just loved the plate a little bit more, that it would become bone. So I started doing that. I started activating that and just telling my plate that I loved it. And I told my body, my ligaments, my muscles, my cells, my DNA, I was just speaking to my entire body to accept the plate into my body. And, it felt good. And then we were having a session, because one of the things that I had noticed, it looks like one of the screws was starting to come loose. And I remember we had a session and you asked me, and I was like, oh, I'm a little upset. I don't want to go back, to the surgeon. And so then that's when we started praying and, for the screws. And that's when I had the revelation, I accepted the plate into my body, but I never accepted the screws. Wow. So we prayed very simply during that session. And then we went on with things. And then it was like midway, it's like, it doesn't hurt. When I put my elbow down on my desk and it didn't hurt. And it's like, Bralynn, something's happening. And the next day, the screw went back in. So you can't make this stuff up.
I know you can't make this stuff up. And this is funny. And that was after, okay, so this is probably why we get along so well. We both had a screw loose. I had a screw loose in my foot after I had it reconstructed. I hadn't done the spiritual work that didn't even think about doing it. So I actually had to go back in for another surgery to have that screw fully removed, because you could literally see it poking. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So isn't it interesting how our body, or how our mind in the quantum realm, because that's where our thoughts exist and that's where our frequency is, and how that really affects our 3D world, our body.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. People don't think it's real, but oh my gosh, it's more real than you can ever imagine how it affects.
I was just reading a little bit earlier, part of our notes. Oh my goodness. I probably won't be able to find it, but it came out of that book about quantum physics, and it was in the book of Genesis.
Oh, yes. It's Genesis, Zen, and quantum physics, or something like that. Yes, that's a really book. That'll blow your socks off. Yeah.
But it talks about how the earth, it was created, but it was empty. Mm-hmm. And that's all of us. Before we come to Christ, we truly are empty. And when you look at the vastness of who we are and what we have been created, it's, we're so filled, like there's so much that we have to unpack, whether it's in our bodies, whether it's in our souls, and whether it's in our spirits, but it's all three. And just realizing, like, we truly are limitless. Whatever limitations we have, we place on ourselves, because the Lord hasn't given us limitations. If anything, he said, greater things are we going to do.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Okay, so let's talk about that in the next part, which will be, drum roll, episode 100. Yay. So that'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, let's save that, all of those greater things and that limitlessness. Let's have that discussion in part 2. So for the peeps, you guys, show Pat some love. Give us some comments on Facebook or on the YouTube, wherever you're watching this right now. Share this episode with your friends. Share the whole podcast with your friends. I love you guys. I pray for you. Thank you so much for supporting Spirit-Centered Business and the show and the movement making all of all of creation aware. We've got to wake the sons up to who they are and how to operate in your regular life and in your business. We haven't even talked about your business, Pat. We should probably get to that. But so I just really appreciate my audience. And Pat, I think I've shared this with you, is I imagine bringing my entire audience into my realm. I love on them. I give them the bread of life to eat and living water to drink, and I bless them and all of that. So you guys are included in that. And so until next time, stay spirit-centered. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Spirit-Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.